Good afternoon, everyone. I'm David Walters and I work for Brunel University London. My presentation today is titled CRIS POWER, Taming the Service Requirements of Open Access. I'm going to talk about some of the challenges we faced at Brunel and King's College London in developing our open access services. I hope to demonstrate our approach in utilising the power of the CRIS in order to support this. A quick definition. CRIS stands for Current Research Information System. It's essentially a database used by institutions to monitor academic output alongside local business systems. It's useful because data can be cut to department level or even down to the level of individual authors, which is highly useful for strategy makers. My presentation is split into two parts, the challenges we faced and the solutions in our approach. I will argue the challenge we face is the imbalance in the roles that have emerged to support our services, and I'll define these as advocacy and facilitation. I will argue the advocacy role is more important in bringing about cultural change, but it's currently being displaced by huge overheads of administration. I will outline our solution of a CRIS-led approach to rebalance these roles by using effective data management, and I will show you some of our achievements. RCUK have described this new post-Finch world as a journey, not an event. And I see two key roles that have emerged in its wake, one of advocacy and one of facilitation, some examples of which I outline on this slide. Open Access Week is a great example of the advocacy role in action. And this kind of one-to-one advocacy work should happen far more regularly than it does. I define the advocacy role as serving our local communities by leading through cultural change. Our services exist to foster engagement through our long-established professional networks, and they work to engender open dissemination practices within our local communities as the established norm. I define the facilitation role as serving the necessary aspects of administration, making reports and recording payments, for example. As facilitators, our tasks are broadly split between reporting requirements to stakeholders and request-driven processes. The time it takes to process a single APC takes an average of 2 hours, according to a recent report. Clearly, our goal must be to minimise the impact of these processes, especially when, for most institutions, staff resources are low. To recap, our roles need to be rebalanced and skewed in favour of advocacy, and only this will bring about the local cultural change we all wish to see. However, facilitation has taken precedence, and our services are struggling to scale against competing requirements and against greater engagement from our users. On to our solutions. We implemented a CRIS-led data management approach to support the facilitation aspect of our services. We wanted to manage our data more effectively by making best use of existing data sources. We did this because we wanted to curtail administration time and give scalability to this aspect of our service requirements. We wanted to simplify the administration process, and we wanted to achieve a greater level of understanding of our publications data over different dimensions, particularly, of course, in the area of open access dissemination. Open access contains within it a number of distinct elements, and a simpler way of approaching these is to separate them out as different components. And these can be thought of as distinct entities that have clear relationships and dependencies with each other. Some are data sources accessible to us over the web, some are available to us locally, and some we must define ourselves. We decided these data resources must be brought within our existing infrastructure in order to support the facilitation of our services. Our first level approach was to try and apply some of these data sources with our CRIS, which is ideally placed to support this. So we took the DOAJ, Cottage Labs and Sherpa Romeo data and applied it to our institutional record. And this gave our data the required depth to monitor dissemination trends at different levels of scale over the university's portfolio. And this in turn informed our own service response in real time, enabling evidence-based conversations with specific departments. Our second level approach was to create a transactional relational database from those remaining elements of open access in order to structure funding and information requests into a coherent shared workflow. Requests are ultimately linked to, and therefore updated by, records from our enhanced set of CRIS data. And this gives us access to attributes like publication dates and licenses, which will later be available for reporting. And this saves the duplication of effort caused by time-intensive data entry. Our third level approach was to proactively identify funded outputs from the acknowledgement statements found in the Scopus and Web of Science databases. So we were able to extract and analyse this data to identify publications under an open access mandate where we have the correspondence address. A proactive approach means we have the ability to provide a more rounded service, ensuring compliance across a huge spectrum of funders, not just limited to RCUK and COAF. In this last section, I'll move quickly through just a few of our results, which are the results we're able to get from our enhanced set of data. So this one breaks down our open access data across our publications portfolio, illustrating the scope of open access at the institution, which goes far beyond the boundaries of the library. As you can see, we had far more gold publications over the year than we had even requests for funds. And this makes perfect sense when you consider those non-RCUK funders who provide for gold open access. Our financial statements, Nestle deals and prepayment accounts are also modelled, and we were able to generate several reports looking at different areas in order to enable an effective financial management, which is another difficult aspect of facilitation. Finally, I reflect on the future services that could potentially emerge from this kind of approach. So we applied AltMetrics data to our CRIS to measure the impact of our open access publications. This shows we have the potential to develop new services to actively promote research discovery alongside our institutional brand and increase impact at different points in the research lifecycle. And again, the University CRIS is ideally placed to support this. To close, our roles must be rebalanced in order to affect the cultural change we wish to see within our institutions, and this can be achieved through effective data management. Thank you very much.